Hey everyone, it's your hosts Cody and Shawn from The New Reality. This is the place to hear about the paranormal, the supernatural, and everything in between. So we did a lot of talking, and I think we're gonna go with our first paranormal experiences and kind of what got us into the paranormal field, and you know what we took from all of that. What do you think, Shawn? What was your first, prominent paranormal experience?
Wow, I could think of several different ones that I've had, but I want to say my most prominent paranormal situation was in Isetti Ranch in Washington. I'm involved with meditation, and I was looking over YouTube's, and this ranch came up, and they were talking about, fairies and UFOs and supernatural things that were going on, and at this time I just started getting into the metaphysical, so I really wasn't sure about what was out there and understood what was going on out there, but so I ended up went on a road trip. Just so happened to be with your uncle.
Right.
So that was kind of interesting. But we ended up stopping at Mount Shasta because I had a seminar I was going to do there in 3 days, and then we went up to Washington. And it was a drive, so it was kind of a neat, we stopped wherever it was for camping. But so we ended up showing up at this location and pulled into the ranch and parked and went up to their office.
Let me stop you there real quick. What is Isetti Ranch?
Oh, okay. Isetti Ranch is basically a man named James Gilliland. He used to be involved with aerospace. He was an engineer. He's now self-sustained. This ranch is all about metaphysical. It's about extraterrestrial contact. Again, this is stuff I've been interested in all my life, even as a small child. So it definitely piqued my interest.
Right.
It basically, people go there to have supernatural experiences.
Perfect.
So that's exactly, so again, here I am searching because, even as a child, these things interest me. So went to the place, pulled in, parked, went up to their front office. This lady said, "Well, let me show you around," and she pointed over at this lake and said, "Oh, this is where the fairies hang out," and points over at this other place where there was this is a vortex, and you see UFOs coming out of Mount Adams. And at that point I'm going, I looked at her, and she after she gave us the tour and she walked back in, I looked at the guy that came with me, Tim, which I said, "Is that woman out of her mind?" So so I thought at first when she's telling me that, I just thought, wow, this is make believe. So so then we stepped out of the office and started walking towards our vehicle and decided, let's stop by the lake, which again was where the fairies hung out. So we kind of got split up. The gentleman I was with kind of went around the other side of the lake, and I was in one spot, and I had my camera on, my digital camera, and all of a sudden I look up and this light appears, and it was probably 15 feet away. This was daylight. The sun was in front of me, so this light, I tried to look at it and figure out, what the heck is this thing? No matter what, I saw it on the phone, I saw it on my camera, I saw it with my eyes, I kept moving the camera thinking maybe it might be a reflection of something, but the thing continued to expand. It got to where it was probably about 3.5, 4 foot tall, and it actually went horizontal and vertically. So it was almost like a cross, but it was more of an X. Well, as I'm watching this, I'm yelling for Tim. I'm like, "Hey, come here, check this out." And I was yelling at him, "Hey, do you see this?" And again, he was quite a ways away. He's like, "I don't see anything." Well, as he's running up, this entity starts shrinking. And at that point, it almost was down to nothing, and I snapped a photo. Unfortunately, and then when I looked at the photo, it had wings. It was a little body. Wow. It had wings, and it was radiating its own light. I knew what I was looking at was a fairy. So at that point, I was like, everything that I believed and understood went away. I knew my reality was going to be different. I knew that was something, Tim did see it when he looked over my shoulder, but I knew that circumstance was for me. It wasn't for anybody else. It was for me.
Well, it's not every day you see fairies, right?
Yeah. It changed my life, really. Again, it just opened me up to all those different things and where I am today. So that happened, and I'm scratching my head at that point, and we started heading back to the vehicle, and as we're walking back, again, a quick pink flash right in front of my eyes, and I'm like, what the hell is going on here? I didn't get a vision of what it was, but it was so fast, it passed across my eyes. So we ended up, we went back to the tent, or went back to our site and put our tent up, and then we went out to the quote-unquote vortex. Again, I didn't believe in these things. I got there was definitely a feeling when you walked into the vortex that there was a different feel to it. As of my awareness now, I knew there was an energy shift when I walked into this thing. Excuse me. Well, I've sat there, and again, I'm a meditator, so I sat there next to Tim. We were meditating, and something told me to open my eyes and look at Mount Adams. So I look up at Mount Adams, and I see a gray speck pop out of the mountain, and I'm like, "What is that?" And then it popped back into the mountain. It happened 3 times, and finally I nudged Tim and said, "Hey, dude, take a look at the mountain." I go, "What do you see?" He goes, "What is that gray speck outside the mountain?" Oh my God, it just went back in. So I knew at that point I wasn't seeing things, that he also saw what we were seeing as it was a UFO.
Right.
So yeah, that was an amazing weekend. We spent 3 or 4 days there, met some really interesting people. Probably people I wouldn't hang out with every day, but we became lifelong friends because there was a lot that was going on.
Sure.
There was one other thing at that location that really blew my mind, because again, nature and everything it's different there. You get on the property, it's just different. I play a flute. That's a story in itself. But I play native flute, and I was under a tree playing this flute. Next thing I knew, I had 15 to 20 birds up in the tree above me singing along, which I'm going, how does these birds even know that what I'm going to play, right? It was enough to where Tim looked at it and he goes, "Are you kidding me, dude? Like, really?" Like, he couldn't believe it.
Right.
So anyway, that was a wonderful weekend. That was probably one of my most prominent supernatural experiences I've ever had.
No. It sounds like a great weekend. I know I went to East City recently with you, and that was pretty fantastic. That'll be another story in itself as well.
Yeah.
But
it was different, but it was definitely different in a good way. Not the same, but definitely different.
Right.
But how about you? What was yours?
I say for me, there's 2 that sticks out. And I've been doing this for like 10, 11 years now, but there's 2 that sticks out the most. I'll start with the first one. Is when I was 16 years old. So I was your typical kid, I liked playing video games, hated school, blah, 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 blah. So I was living with my mom at the time, my mom and dad, and I had my friend come over, Nick, and we were staying the night, and we were up at like 3 a.m. playing video games, doing just what typical kids stuff do, right? And keep in mind, I've always been into the unknown, I guess you can call it. Ghosts have always interested me. I've always been interested in UFOs, just never really dabbled in it. So it's 3 a.m. We're playing video games, and we hear this sound, and it sounds like a vacuum. And I turn to my friend, and I'm like, "Dude, my mom is high. She's freaking vacuuming at 3 a.m. Like, what is she doing?" So So we look at my buddy and he's all, "Let's go see." So we go out in the living room and it's all dark, no vacuum. So I'm like, "What the heck?" And we start hearing it again, and it's coming from what I believe is my garage. So I'm like, "All right, that's a little weird." So him and I, both go over there. We're walking over there, creeping up, and we get to the front door of the garage, and I can hear it loud as day. It sounds like a vacuum. And I look at my buddy and I'm like, "What the hell is going on?" And so we open the door and there's a leaf blower on the floor. It's my dad's leaf blower, and it's on full blast, but it's not plugged in. It's
interesting.
It's just on. So this type of leaf blower, right? It was a small leaf blower. You had to plug it in, and it had a button on it, and you turn the button all the way on for it to work, right?
So is it a knob button?
It was a knob, yeah.
Yeah.
So you had to turn the knob. So I'm looking at this knob, or let me back up. So I'm looking at my buddy and I'm like, dude, what are we looking at? And he's like, well, go turn it off. I'm like, no, you go turn it off. We're sitting here and this thing's happening. Goosebumps are standing all over my arms and everything. So
let
finally,
me ask you, did you ever, did you ever feel like anything else was going on at the time, or was that just bam, right in your face?
It was just right in my face at that point. I can't remember. I'll answer that for you after. So we finally mustered up the courage to walk over to it, and I'm looking at this thing, and it's unplugged, and it's on, it's blowing, and I'm like, are you kidding? Like, what the hell? What do we do? I physically had to turn the knob to the off position in order for it to turn off. And I looked at my buddy and I said, nope.
What you do is you throw it away.
I said, this thing's cursed. Let's get the hell out of here. So, we shut the door, and I told my parents the next day. They thought I was crazy, and it's typical kid thing. But I think that was my first really prominent situation or prominent paranormal experience that I've had. And ever since then, I've just completely dived into the paranormal field. Like, ever since that first experience happened, this goes back to your previous question, Shawn. I started noticing things in my house that were strange, unknown, I guess you could say. Weird feelings I would get, like someone's behind me, and it's not just like when you get up in the middle of the night, go in the kitchen, get a glass of water, you're like, ooh, what's behind me? It was during the day, like I felt something was watching me, or it was just a weird feeling.
Yeah, I've been to your house, and I've been outside of your garage,
right, and
talking to your dad, and we heard moving around in the garage.
Yes.
And we both looked at each other, and he goes, "You heard that, right?" Your dad was like, "You heard that, right?" I go, "Yeah, I hear it, Brad." And again, I'm a medium, but you got to put yourself out there to pick up whatever's there. And I wasn't about to go into paranormal mode at that point. I was trying to get home, but
right.
I was like, definitely the hairs on the back of my neck were sticking up. But yeah, that garage.
No, and it's just the whole. Yeah, I do think the garage is something going on in the garage for sure, but. It changed the whole feeling of the house ever since that happened for me. Another time, and we can fast forward a little bit, but fast forward, several years or whatever, I stumbled across a paranormal group online, and I had no idea about ghost hunting. I didn't even know what the hell it was. I watched Ghost Hunters online. That was or on TV, and I love that show, but I've never actually done it myself. And so I'm like, oh, I got to sign up for this, right? So
by this, we were hanging out, and we were we were doing the meditation thing at that point.
Right. Yeah, I was in a meditation group, and that changed my whole life, in itself. And I met Shawn, and I'll tell you a story about that later. But
how that all went down.
Yeah.
That was
so I start going to this group. They were called Para at the time. I don't even know if they're still together or not, but. So I go there, and I didn't invite Shawn first. I just kind of wanted to fill it out on my own. And I go there, and it's called Pasadena Playhouse in Southern California. And place is crazy haunted. Like, there was all kinds of stuff going on, right? So they paired us up. I think I was in a group of 4, and I was with a self-proclaimed medium. It just so happened to be in that group. And we were going through, and I had my recorder in one hand and a K2 device in the other hand. The K2, it measures like electromagnetic fields and whatnot, and my recorder picks up different, disembodied voices. So we're walking through, and all of a sudden I start feeling this thing coming from my hands, and I'm like, what is this? I didn't say anything at first. I'm like, whatever, I'm weird.
Yeah.
So I keep walking.
The first time.
Yeah. And we go into this room, and it's actually the theater. It's just on the 2nd story. So we're up top, and we're sitting down doing a little EVP session with the recorder. And I start feeling that, I want to say, buzzing coming from my hands. And it was to the point where it felt like it was burning, like my hands were on fire. And I look at the medium that was in the group, and I'm like, all right, I got to say something. What is going on with my hands? Like they're on fire. And she's funny. She looked at me and she smiled, and she was like, oh, well, that's the energy.
Is that Gopak?
That was Gopak, yeah.
Yeah, cool.
And I look at her and I'm like, energy? The hell are you talking about? Like, what is that, And so I started sitting with the feeling more, and going to certain places and feeling it more, I would find out we would get more activity. So I'm like, what is going on? Like, am I feeling this? Essentially, that's exactly what I was doing. Is I was feeling the energy around me,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just crazy that I would go to different spots and I wouldn't feel anything, and we'd get no activity, and then I'd go to a certain spot and my hands would start buzzing again.
What I find funny about all that is you know, again, you use your hands, and you know what Cody hasn't told you is he's also a Reiki master. He became a Reiki master after all of this, of course. But
Correct.
Again, that's obviously that Reiki master using your hands. So yeah, that's amazing that he was already doing that.
Yeah.
At his first paranormal experience.
Yeah, it's my first time there, you know, and it just blew my mind. But essentially, you know, that's what I still use today. I guess the term of it is clairsentient or something like that. I don't know. I don't like to use terminology, but basically,
labeling.
Yeah. Basically, I consider myself a sensitive. I can, you know, feel things around and know where different vortexes are and whatnot. But that's essentially what got me into the paranormal field. But later that night, I think it was like 1 a.m., but I called Shawn and I'm like, listen, bro, you need to do this paranormal thing with me like right now.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm down.
Yeah. And so, you know, and I could go into another, I do have another couple really good stories, but just following up on what Cody did, you know, again, he invited me and they were going to have another investigation. We're going to talk about Yosemite Ranch might as well.
Right.
Not Yosemite Ranch,
EV
Canyon.
Yeah.
So Cody's like, hey, dude, like they're going to have another investigation, you know, Saturday at this canyon off Mount Baldy on the south side, right?
Correct. Yes.
And it's called EV Canyon. And I said, all right, well, let's go. Again, I've been interested in paranormal or ghosts and UFOs since I was a little kid as well. So I was like, let's do it. This is exciting. You know, I'm excited. I want to learn. And so we end up going to this place, and it was crazy. When Cody and I went in that place together, it was as if we were just energizing the space. As we were hanging out, it seemed like all this activity was going on around us. So we knew at that point, I thought, at least I knew at that point, that you and I our energy working together was phenomenal.
Absolutely.
So we kept getting experiences left and right. One of the most prominent experiences I had in EV Canyon, and again, this is my first time. We heard some trampling down a little embankment, and it was somebody walking around, but we could see that there was nothing there. I had my K2 in my hand, and I could hear it walking around. And I had like six or seven of the members from Para behind me, and all of a sudden, as I'm asking for whatever it is walking down below to come up to me, I hear this quick shuffling right up into my face. And I feel this static, and my K2's in red. It's like something is right in front of me, and I could feel it. And we really, now that we're aware as much as we are, because I'm a psychic medium, but again, that took development, and I knew that something was there. And it kind of felt more of a nature base, so what we call elementals. But it was funny because when that happened, it came right up to me. My K2 was reacting to it. A woman that was behind me, which had been doing it for 5 years, grabbed my arm and goes, I'm like, I look back at her, I'm going, really? It's like my first time, and I'm like standing fine, you know. But yeah, that was the same time you and I saw an Indian with a feather.
Yeah, that's right, I forgot about that.
And that was the same trip. Yep. And was that the time when we heard the drum as well?
The drum and the growl.
And the growl, yep, the growl.
And keep in mind, we're out in the forest, right? But for the growl to be right in front of us and nothing, it's just a meadow.
Right.
There's nothing laying down, you know. Of course, logic brain, you're like, oh, that's a bear or a lion or whatever. Yeah. But the reality of it is there was nothing in front of us.
We were able to, obviously I was a skeptic because it was my first time, but it was obvious to me that something was happening that we couldn't see. And again, that's when I started to let my guard down, going, there's a lot more to it than this.
Absolutely.
So it was exciting because, again, you know, just like you, I was always like interested in ghosts. Mm-hmm. And here I am, I'm meddling with them, you know. I never once felt threatened. It felt natural. And that was the nice thing about it. So, I mean, it was really exciting. I had a great time there. And I said, okay, let's do this. And what was that, 9 years ago?
Yeah, it had to be like 9 years ago.
So we've been doing it heavy ever since, you know. Now we're the new reality. And that same group wanted us. Actually, they branched off another guy, and he actually wanted us to be the co-founders of, what was it, Cops? I think it was. Is what they call it, which is kind of funny, right?
Yeah.
Mr. Cody's a police officer, and I work in the aerospace industry, so it's kind of funny that we got into a group.
Well, and that's something I kind of wanted to touch base on too. We're not just some two weirdos. I mean, we are weirdos for sure,
of course,
but we have these really 3D jobs. Like, yeah, I'm a police officer, and Shawn works in aerospace, and we've been doing this for a certain amount of time. But it's just funny to show like the 3D jobs that we have. We're so logically thinking and problem solving and doing all that, to go from that to something that you can't see and to really talk to it. I mean, that's something in itself, right?
If you understand the left and right brain thing, left brain's logic, and if you can't see it and touch it, it's not real. Right brain is fantasy and all these different things, right? So it's kind of do we dare call it a balance? But right. we are in a left brain field. I am in the aerospace industry. I'm a supervisor. I run a crew, and it's nice to step out of that and do this type of work, because
this is fun, right?
Yeah. and we hope at one point that this becomes our everyday job. Not saying we don't like our jobs now, but this is amazing stuff, and we definitely have a gift between both of us. I truly believe. No matter, it seems more often than not, we go to a location, activity picks up. And like I said, even the group we hung out with, it was everybody wanted to partner up with us.
Yeah.
And so it was because they recognized it quickly.
Well, and then ever since we got into Para too, and just kind of touching on why we kind of do this, we started really dabbling into private investigations. That's when people reach out. They're like, hey, something's going on at my house and I don't know what to do. So they reach out to us, and we investigate it. We interview what's going on. We go in with a skeptic thinking, and we try and disprove anything. And if we can't, we'll leave it up to the owner to decide what it is. Yeah. But that's kind of why I'm going to speak for Shawn too. That's kind of why we both want to do this. Is we want to help. Essentially, we want to help people who don't understand, and we want to prove that there is an unknown, right?
We want people to so they understand. I think we're continuously evolving as human beings, and we're the veil is thin. We're going to start seeing more of those things we didn't believe, because people are more open to it now. And I mean, you could see it because there's paranormal shows on TV, UFO shows, and it's more and more accepted in today's society. So I think it's really, really exciting. I think we're both put in place to help people with that.
Absolutely.
I think we could probably do a full-on podcast about what we know and understand, and the abilities and how to bless, and I think that needs to be its own podcast. But just telling, because we do go into situations and do blessings and clear homes, and and really embrace the person. The person's home and what their religion and their belief systems are. So again, because of what we do and who we are and what we know, we're able to do that. But
yeah, absolutely. Well, all right, guys, that's all the time we have for this episode. But make sure to subscribe and like us on all our social media. It's going to be in the description below. All right, we are the New Reality.
Thanks, guys.